options in mind, so we're going to be reviewing Gala apples, Honeycrisp apples, and Granny Smith apples. Okay, now that we have our apples in front of us, we can clearly start setting the guidelines on what we're going to be judging them on. Okay, visual appeal. Let's talk about it. So when you first look at these apples, the first thing we're going to notice is the color. And as we look at the color, we can tell that Granny Smiths already have their iconic green, but the reason why that is because there's an excess of chlorophyll when the plant is maturing. So as Granny Smiths begin to ripen, they don't lose their color because they keep that tangy, that sour, that bitter taste that a lot of bakers and a lot of apple enthusiasts love because it gives them something different to work on. Whereas Gala apples, they're more orange and red and yellow, and they generally tend to work best as snack apples and are generally more cost effective. We'll get to that later. But Honeycrisp apples, on the other hand, they have a mix of both Gala's characteristics as well as Granny Smith's with the excessive chlorophyll. So as you can see, as we're looking at this apple, there are hints of green. This apple is completely mature and more than ready to eat. But there's a noticeable difference in that. A lot of people tend to prefer Granny Smiths for decoration even, just because of the color. So generally speaking, all these apples are going to have different purposes. No apple is made the same, and no apple is genetically crossbred with other types of apples to get a definitive outcome just for funsies. So we're going to be looking at the price difference between all three and see which one is more cost effective.
All the apples shown in this video are from our local Hy-Vee here in Eldridge, and so they are being sold more competitively as opposed to grocery stores. So when we really look at the Hy-Vee that we have here, we can see that there's a definite difference in the price between the Gala apples, the Granny Smith apples, and the Honeycrisp apples. The Gala apples and the Granny Smith apples will generally stay within that same range of $2, whereas Honeycrisp really depend on the occasion, but
so
they
I'm
can go
going
up
to be
to
slicing these
$2.50.
apples, and I'm going to be rating them on a scale of 1 to 10, both on the taste and the crunch that we get from that apple. Okay, we're going to start with the Granny Smith apple. Generally speaking, this apple is in fact sour, but it also has a sense of sweetness to it. It might have been that I left it ripen, but this is a really good apple, and as you heard, it has a really good crunch. Overall, I give the Granny Smith an 8 out of 10. I love the flavor, I love the crunch that it has behind it, and I don't know if you can tell, but it is glistening. So this apple is juicy, it's amazing, and it has the right amount of flavor to balance out the sweetness and the sourness. Okay, moving on to our Gala apple. Here we go. Noticeable differences right off the bat. There was not as much crunch to the shell of that apple, simply because it's more mature. It's meant to have less chlorophyll in it, as it's supposed to be more ripe and more sweet. I love Gala apples, and if I were to rate this, I would, again, give it maybe a 7 out of 10. It's not the best apple I've had, but I know that these apples are generally the more preferable apple. And this apple in particular is really sweet, and I absolutely loved it. The crunch, a little bit disappointing. Moving on to the last and my personal favorite, Honeycrisp apple. These apples, the only thing I would say is that they vary drastically in price and are generally more hard to find, especially out of season. So here we go. As I predicted, this apple is really crunchy, it's really juicy. And as opposed to the Granny Smith, the Honeycrisp apple doesn't have as much chlorophyll in it. And therefore the maturation, it's a lot more progressed, but it's not to the point where Gala is right now, where it might be overtly sweet for more people. This is a good apple. I'm gonna have to give this a 10 out of 10. Not only is the shell protective enough to keep the apple from bruising, especially on a long shelf life if it's refrigerated, but it's a really good taste, a really good crunch. 10 out of 10. So looking at my rank here, at the top we're gonna have Honeycrisp apples with a 10 out of 10 rating, both for the crunch and the taste. Secondly, we're gonna have our Granny Smith apple. Lost some points for the bitterness at the end, because you get an aftertaste after a while, but generally it's a good apple. It tastes delicious, and I would definitely eat it again. And then on the bottom, our most cost effective and sweetest apple, I'm gonna have to put Gala at the bottom. And it's not necessarily because Galas aren't good or because they're lesser priced, but I generally feel like the sweetness of the Gala apple, as well, specifically this Gala apple, felt disappointing in comparison to both the Granny Smith and the Honeycrisp apple, especially the crunch. Okay guys, that's it for today. Thank you for watching me rate these apples. Let me know what you think, and do let me know which is your personal favorite. Thank you.